What is up, you guys, and welcome back to another live stream here on the Sergeant Tank Pets YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking specifically about different aspects of fish or aquarium club auctions and different things that pertain to the auction, how to prepare for the auction, and just give you some tips and tricks, and of course, take your guys' questions here live. If you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and put it here in the live chat. And in the replay, if you're watching this, feel free to go ahead and put down in the comment section any questions that may have not been answered here today. All right, so let's go ahead and pull up chat. See what we got going on. Let's see. We got Daryl Deemer, Chris S4, Eric B, Heather Nielsen, Captain Savage Aquatics. So thank you guys for popping in here on an impromptu live stream on this Wednesday. So I hope you guys have had a good week and a good past weekend. We got Andrew Perkowski. How you doing, buddy? We got Dang Tanks in the house. So it's been a little bit since I've done a coffee with Sergeant Tank. I know if any guys have been following this channel for any period of time, that was something I was known for, not only doing late nights, but morning live streams and afternoon ones. So I figure I'll pop on here and chit-chat with you guys for a few minutes and go over a topic that oftentimes is brought up and people have a lot of questions about. So if you guys aren't aware, my name is Jeremy here with Sergeant Tank Pet. So if you guys aren't aware of who I am, you can definitely check out the repertoire videos that we have. We also have a website which contains various livestock as well as dry goods, and all of that is down in the description below, so you guys can definitely check it out. Later on, if you want to, we have created playlists, trying to invest a little bit more time here on the platform to bring some good educational content to you guys. And as well as you can find us over on the Facebook, which is just Sergeant Tank. So if you search for Sergeant Tank, I definitely encourage you guys. That's oftentimes when I do a little bit more behind the scenes, fish room walkthroughs, updates, live procedures when it comes to fish, how-to tutorials if it comes to a specific species of breeding. You can always comment on one of the videos. That course helps us as creators to show the overall engagement, as well as I enjoy chit-chat with you guys. So but yeah, we got H2O Fish. Hello. Angelo's Fish Tanks. How you doing, buddy? So we'll give it a few minutes here, and then we'll go ahead and start talking about the topic. Martin's Tank Talk. How you doing? So hopefully audio and video is good. Just give me a thumbs up. Want to make sure we got all that taken care of before we kind of get into things. We'll be doing some screen shares with you guys and just show you some different visual aids to better understand some of the information that we'll be talking about. If you guys aren't part of a club or have really much interest in the club, this may not necessarily be the live stream for you. But if you guys have had interest in auction or are part of a fish club or interested in getting involved with a fish club, I highly suggest that you guys do. I have lots of video content out there on the importance of it and a lot of maybe questions that you guys may have in regard to starting a fish club and all of that stuff. And I've covered auctions and swap meets in the past, but I just figured I would focus specifically on auctions, as we do have one coming up here October, I want to say 27th of this coming fall, here in the Grand Rapids, Michigan market, which is through Grand Valley Aquarium Club. Once this concludes, I'll go ahead and put all the information for you guys down in the description so you can check it out. If you guys are in or around the area, I highly suggest you don't have to be a member in order to participate. It's publicly open, but I will take some of your guys' questions and hopefully point out some of the requirements if you plan on coming to partake in the auction, whether if that's purchasing items through the auction or being a seller at the auction. We got Dwayne Kitchell. How you doing? Nice to see you back from Peru. Andrew said clubs are a great opportunity to get fish from get the right fish from breeders. Additionally, getting specific care into and from them. Absolutely. Let's see here. We got T-Po said at Sergeant Tank. It's me, tagging Chris's brother. How you doing, buddy? Nice seeing you in the chat. Let's see here. Vi, I know I've seen you a few times in the chat. I can't remember if it's Vi or is it Vi? Is that how you pronounce it? Give me a 1 if it's Vi. If it's not that, then try to let me know. I always try to pronounce your guys' names. I like to know people by a first name basis rather than just YouTube names. And if you guys don't want to, disclose if you have a lot of people here, of course, have YouTube names that are their actual name. If I completely understand, but let's see. Tipo said, "Good. How about you?" Oh, I'm pressing in, taking one day at a time, as always. All right, so we got 14 in the house. Figured it's probably not going to be. Go ahead. You can do me a favor if you want to share it out through Instagram, other social media, Facebook. I definitely enjoy getting the engagement. I really enjoy interacting with you guys here on the platform and taking your guys' questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull up here a couple of documents, and I won't have chat. So I ask anybody here in chat, moderators or anybody else, if you can just do me a favor. People are asking any specific questions, I will that come in, because I don't have a separate screen to keep an eye on chat. So I will try to go back and forth between the two screens. Dwayne said, Jeremy, we missed you in Peru. You would have loved it. I wish physically and financially, Dwayne, I would love to. If it would have been before 2011, I would have jumped on that bandwagon in a second. That's right up my alley. I miss every aspect of hiking, hunting, camping. I spent pretty much 24/7 as much as I could outside. Come rain or shine, in the snow, it didn't matter to me. But yeah, it definitely looked like an awesome time. I still need to check out those videos that you guys did. Quite a bit behind on content on YouTube. D, how you doing down the wormhole? Thanks for stopping in. Pam 54 Punchy, hello. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch the screens here. So it's gonna bear with me. It's gonna go kind of crazy for a minute, and then I will. I'm gonna pull up a screen. So there's gonna be a couple of different documents for which I'm gonna be showing you guys, but I want to get that ready to rock and roll here. Just bear with me. I'm going to go ahead and close out this other stuff that I don't need. All right. Oop. You know what, you guys? Scratch what I said as far as not be able to see chat. I need to make sure you guys are seeing what I'm seeing anyway. So I'm going to pull up on my cell phone here real quick this live stream so I can make sure you guys are on the same page as me. All right. So looks like you guys are there. I will try to periodically take a look here at chat as well, but just bear with me. And we're going to go ahead. The first thing that we're looking at here, so anybody just popping in, thank you so much. Another impromptu here on Wednesday, which is August 1st of 2018. And thank you guys for joining us here at Sergeant Tank Pets on the YouTube channel. What we're focusing here today is talking specifically about auctions related to a fish or aquarium club. I want to show you guys some visual aids as we walk through, so it kind of makes a little bit more sense. So oftentimes I have people ask, especially anybody new joining a club, coming to a club, a lot of this stuff that you see here is going to actually be at most clubs. This is kind of a general guideline. So some of this stuff might be somewhat similar to folks here in the chat that have either been to a club meeting, to an auction, or something, related to that. This is a form for which you would be utilizing in order to sell your fish at an auction. And we call these just bag forms or labels for your fish bags. And the seller ID is something that's going to be given to the member of that club or that individual to associate that with a spreadsheet, let's say, through electronic form in order to generate a check after the auction. So let's say you have a spring and an annual auction or even a winter auction. However it is based on that specific area. You would have a lot of times your initials as long as that seller ID isn't taken. What that does is that makes it easier to recognize through the system when you're entering this stuff in. Because as you can imagine, you're going to have in upwards of could be 500, it could be 1,000, which is uncommon, of actual quantity of bags going through any given auction, depending on the market. So organizing 500 or 1,000 or even more bags based on, each individual, and you may only have, let's say, 50, 60, it could be 100 sellers. It can get quite overwhelming if things aren't entered appropriately. And oftentimes what we find, and we'll get a little bit more into this here in a minute, but we'll get a little bit more into the details behind some other aspects of this. So hopefully it makes sense to you guys. But before we get into that, I wanted to just show you guys kind of a visual aid here to help you better understand where I'm coming from. So your seller ID, again, is something that would be generated through that specific club. And a lot of times it could be your initials. All right. So the bag number here would, let's say you're bringing in 5 bags of fish that you want to auction off. And the bag number is just associating with that specific species of fish. And it doesn't have to be in necessarily any particular order. You just want to remember, so bag 1, bag 2, bag 3, bag 4, bag 5. And then the species is very important. You want to make sure that you provide species specific. So you can't just put on a bag, this is a guppy. People want to know, a lot of these are veteran aquarists and myself included. I want to know specifically what species. So let's say it's a Poecilia reticulata. So what you would write in here is Poecilia reticulata. and let's say it's a variant of, or a variety, VAR of a panda guppy. And then you could include in there what type of finnage it is, so on and so forth. That's where you go ahead and provide a specific description of that species. And then you'll go ahead and put how many you have here next to quantity of what specifically. Let's say you have 5 Poecilia reticulata panda guppies. You'll go ahead and put 5 in the bag and unsexed juveniles. Let people know that. Or you could put a trio next to this. So a trio, most people, it's just a universal term that you would utilize, or if it was a reverse trio. So a trio obviously is a male to 2 females. Reverse is opposite of that, 2 males to a female. You could go ahead and put that here. This is where you would put your name, so your first and last name, and then a phone number. This is important because if anybody wants to ask you any questions later on, this is very important. Then that way they can reach out to you, knowing that you're open and transparent is very important. And you could also put in here an email if that's more convenient, but it's still recommended that you would put your phone number down there. Generally, people aren't going to be reaching out to you, but that's one of the things that people want to know, that you are available if need be to have that option there. All right, so this here is going to be a basic selling form. So this is specifically through our club. If you came to the Grand Valley Aquarium Club, this is what a registration form will look like. So most people aren't going to be bringing in probably more than 1 page. Me, on the other hand, I max it out at 50, and we're going to get into a little bit more of that here in a few minutes. So let's say you only have, you have less than 25 livestock that you plan on bringing in, or whatever the item is. It could be even a dry good. You would just go ahead and put page 1 of 1, and then that would let us know through the auction committee that you have, that there's only 1 page here. And then you would correspond here, item number 1. So let's go back to this. This would correspond to bag 1, bag 2, bag 3, bag 4, so on and so forth. And then you would just put a basic description of what the item is. Your seller ID would go right here, which is the same as this. So again, fluency is key, and consistency. And then the sell price is where the auction committee, after the item sells, that would go down right here. So we handle this on our end through the volunteers and those that are working at the auction table. Tracks all of this. And then the total selling price at the end of that auction would go ahead and go here. And this is where I would say we are probably one of the most generous when it comes to clubs. To be completely honest with you, even though I'm a seller myself, but I'm also a huge supporter of local businesses, local fish stores, as well as local aquarium clubs, is the club here is only taking 30%. The seller, you will get 70%, which is phenomenal. A lot of clubs have a 50-50 split, 60-40 split, stuff like that. So it is very generous, and you have to realize that all of this is ultimately reinvesting back into the club, where the money is going to raffles, the money is going to giveaways, the money is ultimately there to support the club. And this is where this information will come in after the total selling price, once the auction concludes. Here you will write your name and street address and email and all of that. You'll go ahead and fill out here in this portion. So pretty self-explanatory. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera back over to me. Actually, one more thing here. So if you guys are wanting to know, I'm not going to go through all of this. We do have, if you look under the About and you go down the auctions through our website, which is grandvalleyaquariumclub.org, and you can go here, follow these tabs. We try to keep it up to date as much as possible. and this will provide all the necessary information as far as location. There is a discrepancy that we'll have to try to get corrected, but I do notice a discrepancy here in the date. But I believe it is October 27th, because it usually does fall on a Saturday. This would actually be that Sunday, which is not going to be accurate. So it'd be October 27th, and then here you will find those same forms to download and print off to make it convenient for you, the ones that we just took a look at. And then it explains the buy it now table. I'm not going to go through all of this. You guys can get more familiar with that. And auction rules goes through all of this in great detail. Talks about the importance of bagging fish appropriately. You can check out the numerous videos and live streams I've done on how to ship fish. So a lot of that information that I shared here on YouTube is what I would recommend when you're bringing fish, up to the point of obviously putting them in a box. The same process would more or less take place, to, 1 part air, 2 part water, that type of stuff. And then double bag them, make sure that the bags are tight, that they're not going to leak, because that just creates more issues for the auction committee if we have to go through and rebag stuff. And then there is a service fee if that is done, because that takes time. We start our auctions right at that time, and they don't end. No breaks in between until the conclusion. So let's say it started at 11 o'clock, promptly 11 a.m. in the morning. I've seen auctions go beyond 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. And you have individuals that take turns as far as being the auctioneer. And the main thing is just keeping things fluent, keeping things moving along, because it can get quite overwhelming. So no breaks in between there. The other nice thing about the auctions is we also have an area for obtaining food throughout the day. So coffee, pop, water, and then a lot of times you're either going to have some type of like pulled pork, hot dogs, chips, that type of stuff, snacks. So there is that option available for most of the day. And then typically the checks would be mailed out at the conclusion. So you won't be getting your check the day of the auction. Within a week or 2 weeks, you would then have a check mailed to your house for your cut of that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop screen share and get the camera back on me. And let me get my phone here off. All right. Hopefully that kind of made sense. Again, that is the gist of it. And I definitely recommend that you get familiar with it. And as you guys do a few, and especially if you're part of a club and you go to your monthly meetings, we call them not so many auctions. So at the conclusion of each one of our second Saturday of each month, besides July for the 4th of July and then Christmas time, so July and December, we don't have a meeting at that designated location, for which we conduct our monthly meetings where we have guest speakers that come in. And all of that information, we have phenomenal speakers and a great lineup even for 2019 of various speakers that come in all throughout the country, here in the States as well as abroad. So phenomenal speakers that come in, and a lot of those are individuals that specialize in a specific species of fish. So it's very broad, and I think it's great no matter what. If you're in the livebearers, if you're in the cichlids, whatever it is, if you're into aquascaping, ponds, number of different things, diversification to me is absolute key to success in this hobby, to kind of broaden your horizon. So it's like if you went into a place of business and you're working for a company, it kind of reminds me when it comes to diversification in the hobby is to cross train. So you're cross training in different areas depending on what the field is that you're working. So it only better educates you as an overall aquarist to really then understand many different aspects of the hobby. So I definitely encourage anybody that's getting back into the hobby or have been in the hobby for any period of time to kind of broaden your horizon. You'd be surprised of really how neat it is to obtain and keep and raise and breed, you know, different species besides just kind of your own little niche. Jeremy, what do you do for a living, if you don't mind me asking? I've been disabled since 2011. So before that, I ran a remodeling business, did concrete construction work by trade, as well as I did investigation work for over a decade, on top of doing covert operations, covert camera installation, so a number of different stuff. But I've done from a trades point of view. I've done just about everything you can imagine. Um, so very just kind of a jack of all trades kind of individual. So I've done a lot of different stuff ever since I was younger. Let's see here. So many tips from one type. Also work on other types of fish. What happened? Sorry to hear, bud. I've shared it before. It was a individual under the influence that caused a auto collision. It was actually July 23rd, 2011. So, fortunately, they were under the influence and ran through a stop sign, and pretty much the rest is history. Let's see. All right. Andy's Angels. Thanks for so much for popping in. AC Aqua said the way that our club does it is you set a price, example of $5. That is what you get. The club gets the rest. Want to keep guppies with shrimp, fingers crossed. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely make it happen. You just got to keep in mind that it's a great way to stabilize the overall colony. You know, it really comes down um, to maintaining a balanced ecosystem is the easiest way I can explain it. So yeah, if you got different hides, lots of natural plants in there, you'll definitely have a great production of both. And you could even do mystery snails in there as well. All right. If I miss anything, please go ahead and put it back here in the chat. I don't, I'm not intentionally trying to look over anybody's question. Where did I get frames for Priscilla's print from? I ordered those through Amazon. You can get them in a set of 6. They're not cheap though. But yeah, so you're looking probably 50, $60 for a set of 6, but they are nice frames. Sometimes if you have like a mom and pop shop type dollar store, you can find even through like a Dollar Tree, you know, it just kind of depends on aesthetics wise. I mean, you could make your own if you're handy, but yeah, I mean, from a cost standpoint, the ones I found were the cheapest. They're really good quality, really nice glass. And then the mats for the inside of them, I ordered separately. Those aren't too expensive though. It's the frames themselves that aren't cheap. But yeah, you can check out a Dollar Tree depending on the size. Especially the small ones are easy to get, but like I always forget the sizes. But yeah, If you want to make it look more professional, get the mats for the inside. Dwayne said, I have a wad of guppy grass in my antler tank and shrimp do well. Yep. Spawning mops is another great one. I'm going to have to go back and just do like an 8 or 10-minute video on some of those tips and tricks when it comes to breeding and transferring, specifically a lot of different stuff, but with shrimp. But spawning mops is an easy way, just kind of a tip if you guys aren't aware of that. I don't know too many people that do this, but something I've been doing for years is once you get a colony going and you see little shrimplets throughout the system, and if you have a couple of spawning mops in there, like say in a 10-gallon tank, you can take like a net, like even like a 4-inch net, and put it underneath. You could use a cup if you wanted to, and get it underneath the spawning mop, and then carefully lift it together, and then have like a separate container, or another tank, whatever it is set up that's established, to go ahead and transfer if you're looking at transferring to maintain that colony, to continue the offspring. And it works phenomenally well. Then you'll see just a whole disbursement of little shrimplets. But it's an easier way to transfer instead of having to go through and then net. I've shown videos on how to transfer utilizing a airline tubing. It's another way to do it. But if you want to get a bunch of them at once, I definitely recommend it. But if you have little rock piles, which is fine, but if you have little rock piles, just keep that in mind. A lot of times they're going to burrow themselves and they're going to hide out. For me, that's why I don't use rock piles, because if I'm looking at it from the standpoint of actually seeing my shrimp, and for overall continuation to selectively line breed, I try to minimize as much decor and rock piles in the tank. Makes it a lot easier to obtain shrimp, in my experience, by having more plants, specifically floating plants in there in a spawning mop or two. And you can put a couple of hides in there if you want to. They're easy to, whether if it's a coconut hide or PVC, what have you. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't remember which ones these are, but yeah, it's something like that. You just have to figure out whatever size it is that you would be ordering, and then make sure that you get the right size mat for that frame. Let's see. So do you guys have any questions specifically about the Aquarium Club auction? Anything that I showed you guys? This is your time to ask. And yeah. And if you guys have ever been apprehensive or kind of nervous about going to an auction because maybe you feel like it's intimidating or whatever it might be, I would recommend, of course, trying to go with somebody that is into the hobby, that's going to have interest in it, that has done it once or twice, to make you feel a little bit more comfortable, because it's going to be a long day. You don't have to stay for the whole thing if you don't want to, But and there's a lot of other stuff that go along with it. There's raffles and sometimes giveaways and that type of stuff as well, depending on kind of how things are with that specific club. So each club is a little bit different, and I highly suggest, if you're looking at getting specific species, rare species that you can't typically just go to your local fish store without special ordering, and even through special order. Or even a lot of times finding this stuff even on Aquabid or other places online, because that you're going to typically get individuals that have a clear reputation for a prolonged period of time when it comes to breeding certain species of fish. And that you're going to get good genetic lines. Acclimatizing will be a smoother process, and it's just fun to see what is going to be in there, because there's so much diversity They're not just cichlids. They're not just live bears. You know, sometimes you have fancy goldfish. You're going to have discus, angelfish, all different types of cichlids, all different types of live bears, inverts, you name it. I mean, you're going to have a lot of different opportunities to go through. You go ahead, you come in, take a look, and then once doors open. So what's nice about being a seller is you're going to have, you know, an hour or two, let's say before. So let's say 9 o'clock pre-registration opens. So once you have pre-registration, you show up, you get pre-registered, and then you can go through and you can actually start looking, almost like getting not first dibs, but you know, it really is going to come down to who has more money in their pockets at the end of that auction. And, you know, there's things that will go, you know, for decent prices if you're a seller. I really think it's good for both the seller and the buyer. A lot of this stuff is very reasonable. So I think everybody can typically walk away on most cases from what I've seen and feel comfortable. I'll just leave it that way. You know, it's not going to be like a get rich type thing. I think most of us are aware of that in the hobby, but you can really walk away knowing, hey, I bred this specific species of fish. It's now going to be going to a new home. You can take the pride and the passion in knowing that you bred something that you put your time and money into, and know that you can get a portion of that back and recoup some of that by selling at the auction. No, even more so, a portion of that, you know, 30% specifically with our club will go back to the club for a good cause. What's the most surprising thing you have seen at a local club auction? Gosh. Hmm. I would say probably back at the ALA, the American Live Bear Association, I got some pike top minnow, which is a bell and socks that I'm breeding. I would say that's probably one of the more unique things um, that I've seen in a long time. You just don't see them in the hobby. They're definitely a challenging species to maintain because of the requirements. There's a lot of care that goes into bell and socks. You got to have the right tank set up. You have to make sure that you have you know, if it's something there that you're not into feeding, conditioning, let's say guppies or endlers to breed, to provide them the right nutrition in order to take the offspring and provide it to these fish, not only to the parents, but also the offspring need live foods. They will not eat anything else. I will eventually start doing either an article or a video. As I tell you guys, I mentioned this in the last live stream. I want to study a specific species personally, not what I've seen, not what I hear, but what I personally do. That is one thing I think that separates me from other people is I do what works for me. So I study different methods, taking different resources and different literature that I study before obtaining something to figure out the overall best possibility is as far as a yield on that fish. And then I'll go ahead and incorporate sometimes my own tactics for things I've just kind of developed that have worked for me personally through the years. And then once I can establish a yield of, let's say, you know, 30 or 40% successful, raising and maintaining to an appropriate age and size to then rehome, then I'll go ahead and most likely do a video on that. So just because I keep, you know, 110 active systems with well over 40 different species that I raise and breed, I'm not going to be putting out any type of literature or content until I've studied that specific fish to a point that's reasonable to where I feel comfortable to go ahead and provide video on it. So it's not that I don't want to share information with people on YouTube or through social media. I have people ask me, well, why don't you share more as far as breeding, that type of stuff? because if I don't feel comfortable sharing it, I'm not going to share it. And I don't want to share something until I've worked with that for, at least to me, it's 8 months or a year to really get familiar with it. But I would say that's probably the most intriguing thing that I've seen in quite some time. Dwayne, thanks so much. Have a great day. All right. Let's see where we're at here time-wise. All right, you guys, about 20 more minutes, and we're going to wrap it up. So plenty of time to still get your questions in. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off right at an hour. Looks like we've been going for about 40 minutes or so. But yeah, so any other questions for me? A lot of great questions. Great interaction here. I appreciate you guys supporting each other and talking to each other in chat. I always encourage that. Figured it wasn't going to be a big live stream today, considering it's in the middle of the day and most people know me. And I know the way notifications have been going out on the platform aren't the greatest. And most people know us for doing late night live streams. Let's see here. Let me know right now. Give me a thumbs up. It seems like a lot of the content that I've done up to this point here on YouTube, a lot of the view driven, if I look specifically at that, what I've seen anyways, just analytically speaking, is how-to tutorials on breeding specifically. Let me know here in chat if that's something that you guys enjoy. I know we only have 14, 15 concurrently, but let me know if that is something that you guys enjoy. Would you like to see more of that? If and even let me know if that is something. Is there a specific fish or a certain species of fish that you would like to know more as far as breeding? What I would also like to do at some point is to do a live stream. I've talked a lot about breeding, but break it down even more so. And I'm slowly getting to that point of wanting to share and be motivated to share more tips on breeding. I don't want to be one of those individuals that withhold something if it works. Because ultimately, as a hobbyist, I think we all need to work together and share certain tips and tricks. Whatever one person might share may not work, but maybe somebody else shares something and can apply it, and maybe they're having more success. Just because of the variables, obviously, in this hobby. But there is different things that I do in order to promote and inhibit, depending on what it is. And some of the stuff might seem a little unorthodox, and some of the stuff just might be, I don't know how you would phrase it, more normal to the general public of their idea when it comes to breeding. Most of my focus is more on an egg-laying type of fish rather than a live bear. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying live bears don't come with challenges, but ultimately it really comes down to the rearing and raising of a egg-laying type of fish. A lot of these fish are very, very small and can be very challenging to raise just on food requirements alone. I've done videos. I culture a lot of different foods. We carry cultured foods, starter cultures on our website, a couple of different ones, vinegar eels and microworms. I will be offering more at some point in the future, but right now that's what we offer. And those are both great starter foods to start out for feeding very small fry. I watch every one, even if I don't have the species, because I can always pick up tips that apply to any fish. I received a food sample and is making my fish aquarium cloudy. What causes food to cloud a tank? The usually the binders and the fillers and a lot of those. So the organic matter that's breaking down, if you're it what it sounds to me is one of two things. I don't know what the food is, and you don't have to share it on here. I would actually suggest not sharing it, to be honest with you, because you could ask 5 people that have that same sample, and maybe 1 or 2 of you had a bad experience, maybe a bad batch or something like that. So without putting anybody on blast, I appreciate you not mentioning the source and just indicating a sample. So I respect that. For me, what I find with cloudiness is usually an overfeeding. So anybody that's been following me for any period of time knows I'm a firm believer on diet confusion and a balanced diet and not overfeeding. If anything, I find a slight underfeed than overfeed. And the other aspect of that is if you don't have enough turnover, oxygen exchange, but specifically turnover in the tank and dead spots. So if it's a floating type of food, if it's a slow sinking type of food, if it immediately goes to the bottom, it really just, there is some variables in there, but if it's just clouding up the water, as soon as you put it in there, that would definitely be a concern for me. It shouldn't do that. If it's been sitting in there and slowly dissolving, and breaking down, then obviously most likely you're overfeeding or your fish don't like the food. And there is ways to try to get your fish to take to a food if you're trying to transition them over. But another thing I would kind of follow up with when it comes to feeding is people say, hey, I've been using this food. I'm going to start using another food. But this other food I've been using for 5 or 10 years, and I have sustainability with my population. My fish are thriving. My fish are doing really well. They're living for a prolonged period of time. I always ask, why are you changing? Why are you trying out something else if it's working? If you can incorporate those key things to me as diet confusion and by incorporating a varied diet on top of skip feeding, and you're having thriving fish, then I would just stick with what you have. That's just me personally. There's a lot of foods on the market that I've tried, a lot of popular ones, even against popular belief, and I'm not going to mention names, that I don't enjoy. I think they're honestly a waste of money. And you can incorporate the appropriate carbohydrates, the appropriate vitamins, the appropriate protein content in other foods. But if it works for you, then continue to use it. I just can't justify spending a ton of money on a food that I know isn't providing any better in all actuality, and in reality of it isn't providing much better what do you want to say, nutrition versus these other foods that are, a third the price. 54 said, I have one food that leaves a bit of oily film on the surface for a few hours after a feed. Let's see here. It's a slow sinking food. I don't feed too much. I feed 5 times a day. If you're feeding small increments, my suggestion is, depending on what you're feeding, what the species is, portion-wise, person A is going to be different than person B. I personally feed once a day. and we feed between 3 and 5 times a week because of my skip feed schedule. Someday I'll have to do an in-depth video showing visually, going through. I've talked about it, but I've never gone through and actually done a breakdown specifically what a lot of these things I've talked about through live streams and I've done through a general video fish room update, which I haven't done in honestly months here on YouTube, to make a little bit more sense to the people. But one thing to me that I studied a long time ago, just by observing my fish, understanding my fish, and knowing how they thrive and how they don't, is by watching their behaviors and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And feeding once a day by alternating in between there, I've noticed thriving wise, they do much better and even long term than feeding, 3 times a day or even in small increments like that. But again, there is some variables there because of the species that you might be doing. If it's a guppy or some other type of live bear versus a cichlid, there's going to be some very requirements, and it kind of depends on the mission of the person too. And if you're trying to obviously rear and raise fry from a fry to a juvenile state, then that's a different conversation. But kind of assuming you're talking about more adult fish. Let's see. About 10 more minutes, you guys, and we're going to wrap this up. So keep those questions coming in. I enjoy the open dialogue with you guys. Ken, thanks so much. I definitely appreciate it. It's an honor to have you in here. Thanks for the stream, enjoying it while listening at work. Thanks so much, buddy. Definitely appreciate it very, very much. Let's see here. Just bear with me, guys. I'm going to scroll back up here in chat. Want to make sure I don't miss anything. Joseph, thanks so much. Says, glad I caught the stream. Good info. Well, thank you. I do have some plans coming up here with some different video content to switch things up a little bit on the platform. My main thing is to educate and to bring about awareness specifically with other hobbyists and veteran aquarists and specifically with clubs. It's an important thing to me because that's what keeps me motivated and engaged and overall provides much more education. Considering I've been in the hobby since 1990-ish. And so obviously a lot of years and been breeding different things over the years, but I always learn something new every day. Even if it's a species I've been working with for a long time, I'm still learning new things. And that's what keeps me motivated by going to clubs, listening to these different individuals that focus on a specific species of fish, because then it gets me broadening my horizon, as I was talking about earlier on. It gets my interest into maybe a different type of cichlid, a different type of species. It could be a different type of live bear. And I enjoy keeping a variety of different fish. And, from top to mid to bottom dwelling, you name it, I really, really enjoy the equal. I'm kind of an equal opportunist when it comes to that. I'm not just like, okay, I dislike this fish. I'm not necessarily in that. There is, let me rephrase. There is, of course, certain species of fish that I don't feel should be in the aquarium hobby. But on the other hand, it's not like I dislike with a passion this fish. And you got to kind of just do what you enjoy to do. That's just what's awesome about this hobby versus I think any other hobby out there is the amount of options that we have. Fish Tropic in the house. Hello. We got my wife in the house. Catastic. Hello. We got Victor V Stag. Hopefully you guys can take something away from this. I know it's been something that's kind of been brought to my attention over the last few months. I figured I might as well do a video on it, talk about it. I will be going through and re-editing this video and re-uploading the video, so give me a couple of days. Of course, this full live stream will be in the link, as I've been doing the last several live streams. Will be in the link of that video, so you guys can watch this entire one from start to finish if you want to. Let's see. So about 5 more minutes, you guys, and I'm going to go ahead and close up the live stream for today. Be on the lookout. I will be having another video here from Andy Perkowski on Goodyids, which you guys can definitely check out. If you look in my video, if you go to my home page, you can see it. Just scroll down a couple of videos ago. Did a live stream with Andy on Goodyids, and now I'm breaking down each one of those species that he had covered, so you guys can hopefully. I know most of us, especially with technology, it's really hard to keep our attention for any period of time. So hopefully with a 10 or 12 minute video versus, an hour and a half, 2 hour, kind of gets right to the point. And you guys can listen to it in the background and take a look. So let's see here. Fish Tropic said, can't believe you added live streams. They do help with engagement. That's something I've been doing. You guys go way back. I want to say we have about 220 plus videos. If I would have kept every one of those videos up, I would probably be over 300, if not 400 videos. Technically, I think honestly, I even broke 500 videos because I remember in the milestone way back under TubeBuddy, I got a little notification thing that I reached. I might be a little bit off here, but I think once you reach like 500 videos or something like that, you get like a little, thing on your banner next to your avatar. Lost my train of thought, but I could be a little bit off on that. Obviously, it's not there because I removed a majority of them. Just because of the engagement, they end up hurting me more than anything. So that's what I do now is I go through and I'll edit. And then what's really nice about it is like with this live stream, we got way off from topic quite a bit, which is great. I'm able to still engage with you guys outside of this specific topic, but then I can go through and edit it down from an hour live stream to, I'll just have to see how much content's in there, but it could be, 10 minutes or maybe a little bit less. I find that most people, especially on lunch, going back and watching it, the engagement by, because you send a lot of people off, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep people on my channel to engage in other content. Hopefully I'll have the motivation, desire. I keep saying that. Obviously, I'm still doing YouTube. I haven't left the platform. But hopefully by next year, after things settle down on a personal basis, then I can refocus my attention and have that passion, desire to start putting out video content for you guys again within the fish rooms. Yeah. We got Mark's in the house. How you doing? Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, Fish Tropic said. I concur. Cat Tessie said, got to troll the hupster for just a quick minute. He let me sleep all day. I worked nights, then got up to get coffee and found an iced coffee all ready for me. I love me some Sergeant Tank. Well, thanks so much. That is my wife, if you guys aren't aware. But yeah, so that brings us right up on the hour mark, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Appreciate you guys very much for popping in here on a Wednesday impromptu live stream. Definitely check this out in a couple of days. We'll be unavailable until then, but I will get this re-uploaded for you guys, and hopefully you can take something away from it. Hopefully it inspires you guys more than anything at all. Even outside from an educational point of view, I want to ultimately inspire you guys to get involved with a local club. And if an auction is a way to inspire you guys to do it, then hey, more power there. But with that being said, you guys, make it a great rest of the week. And we'll talk to you guys right back here on the next one. As always, stay encouraged. Keep on keeping on. Happy fishing. We'll talk to you guys right back here on the next one.